Now, if the thought of sending another cold DM on LinkedIn or another social media platform is making you cringe or making you just feel flustered, then you're not alone, because the traditional cold outreach model is very much broken, and in many cases it can be deemed as spammy, ineffective, and if you don't do it the right way, it can burn your reputation. Not to mention you've got to do 100 or 1,000x more volume than ever before just to get even less results. But what if there was a way actually to do outreach that really feels authentic, but more importantly, that actually gets results? So throughout the course of this video, I'm going to show you a system for warm outreach that's actually going to change the way you think about starting conversations on LinkedIn. Now, you might be in a situation where on LinkedIn at the moment, you're sending 100 connection requests with generic copy-pasted standard messages, and the result is a 1% acceptance rate, few annoyed people, and a graveyard of just ignored messages. And this approach treats people like basically numbers on a spreadsheet. And yes, don't get me wrong, things can be a bit of a volume game, but it's failing to produce results for you. Let's call a spade a spade. And it can actually risk your brand in the process, making people just see you as a bit of a spammer. Now, let's be honest, cold outreach, it can be soul crushing, right? Again, especially if you don't know the best way to go about doing it. The constant rejection, it takes a mental toll, and it can feel desperate because you're just having to interrupt people and basically begging for their attention. It's the opposite of how you want to really be operating to create a flywheel where you can actually attract the type of clients that you want and avoid basically burnout, and actually positioning yourself so that you can start to get more consistency with your lead flow. So the real thing that I want you to think about here is it's not actually focusing on doing outreach. I want you to much more think about that your goal is to start a conversation. And the best conversations, they start warm. Let's think about it. A warm conversation is one where the other person already knows who you are and has a reason to talk to you. The difference between cold and warm is really context, right? Cold outreach has no context, whereas warm outreach is built on it. And you don't need a big audience to actually create that context. Now, this warm outreach system, it's really quite simple. And it's respectful in the way that it's approached. First, you need to find a reason to connect that's actually specific to them and not to you. Second, you add value in your initial interactions with them without asking for anything in return. And third, you make the ask for a conversation only when it's a natural next step. And I want to walk through each of these parts in a bit more detail. Now, a warm outreach message never starts with, "I help companies like yours." It starts with something like, did they just post about a challenge that they're facing? Did they comment on an article in your industry? Did their company just get featured in the news? So your reason for reaching out, it needs to be rooted in their world. So for example, you could say, "Hey, Name, I saw your post about the challenges with Problem. I have a different perspective on that." So you can see this is actually personalized, but it's also intriguing. Now, once that conversation is started, your only goal is to just be helpful. So share a resource, I should say, offer a piece of advice, introduce them to someone who can actually help them. You're basically making these deposits in the relationship bank, as we call it. And this is how you build trust, and also you differentiate yourself from the hundreds of other people who are only trying to take from them. So a warm lead is one that's actually been nurtured with a level of value. Now, this method transforms outreach from a dreaded chore into a genuine relationship building activity. Now, if you'd like support in actually implementing something like this to get to a point where you're generating leads on autopilot through LinkedIn, I've left a link in the description box below of this video where you can learn more about what it would look like to have some support there. But after you provided value and you built that rapport, the transition to a sales conversation, what you're going to find, it's going to become much more natural, feel much more fluid, because it's not a hard pitch. It actually feels like a logical next step. You can actually say, "You've mentioned a few challenges with Problem. This is exactly what I help my clients with. Would you be open to a short call next week or this week so I can offer some valuable ideas?" So you can see that the ask is actually soft, it's respectful, and because you've earned the right to make it, the response rate is dramatically higher overall. So what I want you to think about is to replace the cold call with warm outreach, right? You actually find a reason to connect that's about them, you add value without expectation, and you make the ask only when it's the natural next step in a helpful conversation. And this is how you start conversations that lead to actual clients without sacrificing your integrity. Now, imagine looking forward to actually starting conversations on LinkedIn because you know that they're going to be positive, you know that they're going to be productive, and actually your outreach being a source of new relationships and partnerships, not only rejections where you're hitting your head against a brick wall. And this is the type of system that will turn your outreach from just being a numbers game into actually being a people game. It's actually much more effective, it's more sustainable, sustainable, and it's a process that you can genuinely feel good about. Now, if you'd actually like support in implementing this type of warm outreach system to create a steady flow of consistent high quality conversations on LinkedIn, then I've left a link in the description box below of this video where you can find out more about what it would look like to have our direct support in pulling all of this together on your behalf to get to a point where you're generating qualified leads on autopilot on LinkedIn. So again, check out the link I've left in the description box below of this video. And if you found this particular video helpful, please also take a second to hit the like button, to leave a thoughtful comment, to also subscribe to this channel so you don't end up missing out on any of our future content as well. I hope you found this video helpful, and I do look forward to seeing you on the next one.